Today on America's Court with Judge Ross.
Before one word's being said, goes into the front of his hoodie, pulls out a weapon. Immediately, I'm in defense mode. I reach for the weapon, I switch to the left, shot in the stomach.
In my courtroom, it's about equity and fairness. You want him to pay $628?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knock my socks off. Justice should be more than just some foreign concept. I actually want you to learn something. The law talks about something may in fact be true, but can they prove it? And that's what's tough.
Fair, firm, compassionate. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Plaintiff Laura Hogan claims her condo was damaged during a shooting involving the defendant. She's suing for $4,957. Defendant Paul Chambers says he was shot by the plaintiff's jealous ex-boyfriend, and he's not responsible for the damage.
All rise. Remain standing and come to order. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kevin Ross presiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
All parties been sworn, Your Honor.
Third, get over to Thomas. You know, when people watch these court shows, oftentimes people go, why are they so popular? Well, I think it's because you learn a lot about the law. I learned something in your case that I wasn't even aware of. And it's this whole issue of who's responsible when a tenant is in a situation with a crime scene. You want Mr. Chambers to pay the cost of the damage done to the property that, is it a property that you own?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's talk about what actually happened here.
Sure. I know the defendant, Paul Chambers, for about 10 years.
Right.
We actually worked at a local contract company together. And as we started proceeding to work, he was a handyman.
Right.
I worked for the company as an administrator.
And you all can maintain a platonic relationship. There was no intimacy going on?
Platonic
Right.
only, yes.
And he at some point was living in your condo?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you are the owner of the condo?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any particular reason why you decided to rent it to Mr. Chambers?
Well, Mr. Chambers and I were really good friends. Like I said, he was a handyman, and I actually resigned for the position we were working at the company called the Local Contractors.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I started to do my own invested property company, and I just started to let him renovate.
So you were investing in multiple properties for rent?
That's correct, yes.
Did you initially live at this particular condo?
Yes, I used to.
And then where did you end up living when Mr. Chambers moved in?
Well, prior to the story, I actually had a new house that's like
so
down
you
the street
moved from the
him.
condo to the house and decided to rent out the condo?
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Chambers, what caused you to rent her condo out?
Well, you know, we worked together for a long period of time.
Right.
As you know, I've known Laura for a pretty long period of time.
Where were you living prior to living in her condominium?
Well, I live not too far away from her.
Okay.
I live in an apartment of my own, but I didn't like the apartment too much.
And you
wasn't
liked the
comfortable.
condo?
I liked the condo.
All right. So the two of you agreed. We have a relationship. You felt we would be a responsible tenant.
Yes,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
And so the two of you made an agreement to you would be his landlord and you would be the tenant at the condo.
Correct.
Right. And how long were you living at the condo before this incident occurred?
I'm at the condo for 2 years.
So you were at the condo for 2 years, no problem?
No problem whatsoever.
Great
I paid the
tenant,
rent
paying
on time.
no issues?
No
Yes,
issues.
no issues.
Okay. And then we have the situation that comes up. So let's talk about that.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm an invested property manager at the condo that Mr. Paul rents right now. Prior to that situation, I was dating a guy named Jason. He was my boyfriend. He became very obsessive, very jealous, would go through my cell phone.
He was a nutcase.
He was a nutcase.
Nutcase.
Yeah,
And you're not disagreeing with that?
I agree with Paul.
All right.
He was very aggressive to me. One night that I actually attended one of my girlfriend's Christmas parties, I came back home one day and I proceeded to put my key into the door. He was behind me. And I was like so scared for my life, like, oh my gosh, who's behind me? Come to find out it was Jason. He pushed me into my apartment, choked my neck, was really strangling me as I was trying to perceive myself.
Now, was he doing
trying
this
to kill
while
her.
He was trying to kill her?
Trying to kill her.
Why was he trying to kill you? Had you broke up
He was
with
just
them,
very
or-
jealous, very obsessive, would follow
Were
me
you still
everywhere I
dating
go.
him at this point?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, at the
look
time,
at her. Look at her. Very
he
attractive
was
lady.
really a
You
nice
used to be in a clown
guy.
like
He
that.
was, you know, very charming. You know, never showed any
So
violence.
this was the first time that he showed any sort of a dark side?
Yes, Your Honor.
No, that's not true.
Yes, Your Honor.
I know of a few other times.
There were a few other times
There are a
before
few times,
this.
but not as violent.
No, that's not true.
Not as violent.
Okay. But there was something about Jason that was off.
Yes.
We can all agree to that.
No, we can agree to that, all right.
Okay. This situation happens. You continue to stay at the condo.
No, Your Honor. I mean, prior to him, doing so much violence to me, I was just laid out
Well,
in
you
an apartment.
mentioned one occasion. Was there more than one occasion that he engaged in violence?
This is the first occasion
It's
that he
not the
gained in
first.
Was there
violence.
more than one occasion?
As far as
Was
putting
there
his
more than
hands
one
on me, no.
occasion where Jason
More
was
than
involved
one.
in violence?
More than one.
No, Your Honor.
More than one.
That's not true.
Okay.
Coming up on America's Court.
We start fighting. I have my hand on the weapon. I brought him closer to me, but yet I heard more blast, blast, blast.
And later,
Do you know that he was bisexual?
No, sir.
Okay. You see men and women.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
you have an interest in women.
Yes, I do.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Laura Hogan, who is suing Paul Chambers for $4,957.
Well, the issue, though, is what happened not with you and Jason, but with you and Jason.
That's correct.
Tell me what happened, sir.
One evening, she visited, left, everything's
condo.
normal. The condo.
Okay.
That's correct. She left, and a few minutes after, I hear a knock at the door.
Yes.
I walk to the door. I'm thinking, okay, Laura's back. Maybe she left a phone. Maybe she left a wallet. I opened the door. There's a gentleman standing there. I ask, what do you want? Before one word's being said, goes into the front of his hoodie, pulls out a weapon. Immediately, I'm in defense mode. I reach for the weapon. I switch to the left, shot in the stomach.
He actually, and this is Jason.
That's correct. But yet I heard more blast, blast, blast. So I'm scared. We're fighting. We move from the kitchen all the way to the bathroom.
So
I
you're
push him
throughout
against
the
the
whole
wall.
house struggling because you're trying to make sure this guy doesn't take you out.
I'm going to live.
All right.
If there's going to be any death, it's going to be him. I'm going to live. And so
I understand.
That's right. I'm fighting, and we're tussling. Gun got off his hand. And, of course, he's a punk. Turns around. He runs. I ran after him.
That figures.
Ran to the door. He runs the stairs, and he's gone. I stayed in. As I'm standing on the stairs, I feel a burning sensation. I look down. Burns here. Burns here.
How many
Bullet
times?
here.
So you were shot.
Bullet here. I was
How many
shot
times?
Twice. One here, stomach, thigh. Of course, I end up going to the hospital. Fortunately, according to the doctor, if that bullet had touched the artery, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Now, I took 2 bullets for Laura. 2. 1, 2. And so I don't see why she's expecting me to foot any part of the bill.
Because you didn't have
it.
insurance.
Well, you also didn't pay rent because you weren't working.
I couldn't.
And
Took
you
2 bullets for
covered
her.
the rent
Yes, I covered the rent for 2 months.
2 months.
So he didn't pay rent for 2 months, and he didn't pay the whole balance that's remaining from the biopsy company.
She's alive because of me.
From what I understand, there was a lot of blood.
Of course, I have images of it.
Please, I'd like
You'd
to
like
see
to
it.
see it. And
And
as you can
you
see,
had to have this whole
with regard to the
thing-
insurance, they're not covering everything for him.
The contamination, you had to have it cleaned and you had to go through a
Your Honor,
process.
I had to hire a biohazard company to basically remove all the blood stains in the condo.
I mean, there's blood all on this door and splatterings on the ground and the carpet. Wow.
At least it's not her
Did he
blood.
get shot at all?
No, not at all.
Who could have foreseen that would be an aspect of insurance that they needed to make sure was covered?
I've never heard of
Because, see, the law is very clear on if a tenant damages property, and then there's renter's insurance for theft, God events, in terms of earthquake, hurricane, tornadoes, and so forth. it's a very specific thing to be in a situation where you are entitled to be compensated because you have to pay that cost. Now, was the total cost $4,957?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Was
But he
a
still
month-
owes, he owes a month of rent of $1,475.
That's included in this.
That's correct.
So, she
I'm not
comped you
working.
for, sir, I have a question. She comped you for 2 months' rent, and it's $1,475?
That's correct.
All right, so that's what, $2,950?
That's correct.
That she comped you. So the question becomes, should she have to incur the cost of an additional month's rent as well as the remaining cost for the biohazard cleanup?
Right.
That's the issue.
Which
Her
was
boyfriend shot me, not my boyfriend. Her
$3,842.
boyfriend.
Sir, you don't have to go over it. I already understand. I understand exactly this. And I understand why you would feel like she shouldn't get anything.
Your Honor?
Yes.
In the lease, it actually specifies the damages
that.
and what type of insurance
Yes.
within the lease.
All right, so Mr. Chambers, you've given me all the
I did.
information in terms of damage to property. Did you highlight this in orange?
That's correct, Your
Tenant
Honor.
is also responsible for any and all damages the property sustains, including but not limited to damage done by a third person.
It's not a person.
I understand. Anything else?
Your Honor, Paul and I have been really great friends.
I know.
I really sympathize for his situation. That's why I actually took the time out to go to the hospital, take
I
care
heard
of him,
you.
Your Honor.
I heard you.
And in return, she's a good person. She's a good girl.
I heard you. Based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel must come down in favor of the plaintiff. Because the problem here is you signed a contractual agreement that specifies third persons. I would imagine that most people would not imagine that they needed to make sure their insurance carrier included these sorts of situations. So this is what we tend to call a teachable moment, because for anyone, whether it's because of a sketchy neighborhood or there's someone in your past, this is a good time to review your renter's insurance policy as well as your lease agreement and make sure that if that situation isn't covered, that you may want to consider that. Because the law says, I have to side with her because of the contract you signed. And unfortunately, if your insurance doesn't cover it, you do have to incur that cost, sir. And it feels unfair. It is what it is. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of $4,957. That is the order. Case closed.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $4,957.
I'm really sorry that Paul got hurt. Hopefully we can continue on being friends.
This was an unfortunate event. I'm glad I'm still here. And I really learned a lot from the judge.
And coming up on America's Court with Judge Ross.
And me being a bisexual, she didn't know that at the time.
How you live your life is your business. It is none of mine.
She
Well,
made
wait a minute. Did you know that he was bisexual?
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Trent Gathers claims his car was towed from a parking spot he was renting from a neighbor. Mr. Gathers is suing Marilyn Beston in the amount of $235. Ms. Beston claims she tried to contact Mr. Gathers about the parking situation, but he ignored her calls and therefore his car was towed.
Ms. Beston had your car towed.
Yes, she did.
You wanted to pay those fees totaling $235.
Oh, I definitely wanted to, yes.
All right. Knock my socks off. Tell me, sir, what happened?
Well, sir, I've known Miss Beston for about a year now. She lives in the building behind my apartment, and my apartment doesn't offer parking to tenants.
right.
So we usually have to rely on street parking. Now, my day job being about 2 hours away from my home with traffic, I get home very, very late, and so I have to park 1-2 blocks away usually. One night I was finding street parking, I was walking back about a block away, and Miss Beston approached me and asked me about my parking situation. She
Is that true? Did you ask him about it?
Yes, sir.
Why were you asking him about his parking situation?
The tenants does not have parking included in their lease.
Okay.
So I noticed him walking home one late from parking his car down the street from my home. So I approached him, introduced myself, and asked him how the parking situation was going for him.
And why did you do that?
Because I know a lot of the tenants before in the apartments didn't have a place to park, and they would have to park like a block away.
Oh, this was a business transaction for you.
I was being helpful,
Because the way
Your
you were
Honor.
making it sound like, I'm just seeing him walking, and you were like, oh, I got a spot. If you want to pay for this parking, we could do some business here. All right. And you obviously would get a benefit from knowing that you had a space.
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
What was the agreement between the two of you?
We agreed upon I would pay the first Monday of every month between 3 and 5 p.m. I would put a check under her door.
For how much?
For $50.
All right. The understanding was, pay me $50. You can park here and go to and from as much as you want without having to park as far as you would otherwise park.
Exactly.
That was the understanding.
Yes, sir.
Coming up on America's Court,
She made some disparaging comments about people of the LGBTQ community.
closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Trent Gathers, who is suing Marilyn Beston for $235.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Trent seemed to be a very nice young man, and I even introduced him to my granddaughter, and they went out for a couple of times.
Now, what Miss Besson fails to say is our actual hiccup. We had very good conversation, and there was a time where I was a little uncomfortable by her, made uncomfortable. She made some disparaging comments about people of the LGBTQ community and me being a bisexual. She didn't know that at the time.
How you live your life is your business. It is none of mine.
She
Well,
made
wait a minute. Did you know that he was bisexual?
No, sir.
Okay. You see men and women.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
you have an interest in women.
Yes, I do.
The daughter that you have, you didn't want her seeing someone who was interested in men and women.
My granddaughter.
Your granddaughter.
My granddaughter.
You
Yes.
felt uncomfortable with the fact that he liked men and women.
Well, I was very uncomfortable when I looked at through his apartment, toward his apartment, and he was kissing a young man.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. You're watching America's Court with Judge Ross. This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
Were you gone longer than 30 days?
I was gone for 2 weeks, Your Honor.
You were gone for 2 weeks. That means you're still within the month
Yes.
of payment.
Yes.
Did he pay for that month already?
Yes, sir.
Now, work with me here. The timing of her finding out that you were bisexual and the time that this happened, were they in close proximity to each other?
A bit less than 3 months.
You want her to pay because you had to get your car out of the towing company. You have proof of that?
I do. I have a receipt right here
I get it.
to a tune of $235.
Ms. Beston, why do you feel as though you shouldn't have to pay that if he was entitled, based on your own acknowledgement that you had an agreement per month? He still had a few weeks left. Based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel must come down in favor of the plaintiff. He was entitled to have that space until the end of the month. If you towed the vehicle, you are responsible for those towing fees. You're going to pay him $235. Case closed.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $235.
She should have never towed me from that parking spot. I paid for it for the entire month, fair and square.
I'm going to pay those stupid toll fees and move on with my life.
Follow America's Court on Facebook and Twitter. This has been a production of Entertainment.